Hi, ma'am. Hi, classmates. Good day. I am Consolacion, Bachelor in Secondary Education, major in Filipino, second year level. For today, I will tackle to you about the lesson 3, which is constructing test items and tasks, which is part of the chapter 3. Okay, constructing test items and tasks. The actual construction of the test items follow the TUS. As a general rule, it is advised that the actual numbers of items to be constructed in the draft should be double the desired number of the items. For instance, if there are 5 knowledge level items to be included in the final test form, then at least 10 knowledge level items should be included in the draft. The subsequent test, tryout, and items analysis will most likely eliminate many of the constructed items and draft, whether they are too difficult, too easy, or non-discriminatory. Hence, it will be necessary to construct more items than will actually be included in the final test form. Most often, however, the tryout is not done due to lack of time. So, guys, what is TUS? Okay. TUS is amo ni siya ang table of specification nga pwede gamiton para mobuligan ang teacher na ibalangkas ang proseso sa paghimo sang desisyon sa pagbuo sang mga test kag amo niya ang TUS ang gapa-improve sang validity sang teacher's evaluation base sa test nga gin-construct nila. So, constructing test items and tasks. So, dapat guys, every test making, may drafting gid na iya nga ginahimo. Kung baga, amo na siya ang test blueprint. Okay. So, sa paghimo sini guys, bilang kabuang alituntunin or overall rules, mas gina-advise gid niya ang actual numbers sang items nga obrahon sa drafts. Dapat gid niya double siya sa gina-aim mo nga number sang test nga pagaihatag mo sa final test. Kay tungod guys nga ang gina-aim mo sa pag-construct sang test is ang validity nga ginatawag. So like sa ginahatag nga example no sa aton nga context nga kung may 5 ka items ka dabi nga ginbutang sa imo nga final test, dapat mahimo ka sang 10 or more items sa imo nga drafting making. Kaysa diri dayon masulod ang ginatawag nga ang pag-analysis pala or ang pag-analyze sang mga test nga dapat imo i-include sa 5 items. So, diri masulod ang ginatawag nga pag-eliminate or ang elimination sa mga items nga imo ginhimo sa draft mo ya. So, bali pilion mo diya sa draft mo ang mga accurate kag valid nga mga question nga maga-include sa imo nga final test. Nga sa imo final 5 items. So, amo na siya ang sa pag-construct sang test items and tasks. Okay. Then next guys, amo ni siya ang ginatawag nga TUS or Table of Specification. Ang instructional objectives, ang time spent sang topic, ang percent sang class sang time sang topic, sang number of items nga imo nga items, tapos ang lower level knowledge, recall na identification, comprehension, mga amo na siya guys. Amo na siyang example sa TUS. Basta amo na siyang ang example. If you don't understand, you just do a research on Google and blah blah blah. And the next guys is ang constructing a true or false test. So, ano ang constructing a true or false test? It is a binomial choice or alternate response tests are tests that have only 2 options such as true or false, right or wrong, yes or no, good or better, check or cross, and so on. A student who knows nothing of the content of the examination would have 50% of getting the correct answer by sheer guesswork. Yes, although correction for guessing formulas exist, it is best that the teacher ensure that a true or false items is able to discriminate properly between those who know and those who are just guessing by requiring students to explain their answer and to disregard a correct answer if the explanation is incorrect. Okay, amo na siya danay guys ha, if incorrect. So, it is very understandable naman guys, no? Pero sige, sa pag-construct sang true or false test, ang teacher dapat hindi maging kampante kay may useless lang ang learnings nga ginatawag kung hindi ka maro bilang isa ka teacher sa paghimo sang sini nga kind of test. Kay ang true or false niya, pwede lang niya mapakot-pakot sa mga learners, sa mga estudyante. Kay kabalo ko nga gani nga bisan ni hambal nyo man or hindi, sa high school taya favorite tani, paborito taniya kay bisan may natun-an man ta or wala, maka-answer taya, maka-score taya bisan tunga lang be. At tungod pinumyal lang sa mudo walang imo pilian. So dasi ka lang makakapat sa answer, hindi ka na mangutkot sa imo ulo, bala ka pa da mapalagpat ka sa imong answer. Pero pag abot sa college level, every student is naging hate ang ginatawag nga true or false test. Kaya nga aman, mas maro kag mas gusto na diya sang teacher naton ang ginatawag nga validity of learnings. So, as we observe naman no, kung ga true or false ta, may sub reason gidya nga ginapangayo ang aton nga teacher. Kung nga ang naging true or kung kalabanan niya, kung nga ang naging false. So, if for example, nakabalo ko nakaginatan nga, kung false gani, korekta ang statement para mag-true kag para maging sakto ang answer. So if ang explanation mo isala, so naging sala gina siya ya. So dira ginatawag nga ang accuracy kag ang validity sang learnings is makita. Okay. So sa paghimo sini sa constructing a true or false test, may mga rules na siya. May mga rules. So rule number 1, do not give a hint inadvertently in the body of the question. So, bawal ang maghatag sang hint guys ha, bawal. So, example, the Philippines gained its independence in 1898 and therefore celebrated its centennial year in 2000. Centennial year meaning 100 years. So, obviously, the answer is false because 100 years from 1898 is not 2000 but it's 1998. So, no? Kaya 1898. And is okay, well, going to be 100 years. Kaya kung 2000 na siya, mahimo na siya nga 102 years. So, kita na kaayo na false na siya. So, sa dira pa lang nga part, naghatag ka na sang hint nga imo nga questions as false. So, dapat na siya nga i-avoid, guys. So, number 2 is avoid using the words always, never, often, and other words that tend to be either always true or always false. So, dapat, if maghatag test nga true or false, i-avoid gid ang paggamit sa mga amo na nga words. Example, Christmas always falls on Sunday because it is a Sabbath day. So, sa statement pa lang no, nga ginagamit, obvious na katama ang always. Ang always nga katawag nga pirti na gid siya karong, kay hindi gid man siling nga ang natawag nato nya Christmas days is ara permi sa Sunday, kay tungod every year hindi man pareho ang calendar. So, gaka-come up na siya sa false nga answer. So, amo na siya dapat nga hindi pagamiton ang mga amo na nga words always, never, often. So amo na siya ang rule number 2. Rule number 3. Avoid long sentences as this tend to be true. Keep sentences short. Example, tests need to be valid, reliable, and useful, although it will require a great amount of time and effort to ensure the test possesses these test characteristics. So, come up gid man niya ang estudyante sang sakto diri nga if i-look lang nila sa validity sa sentence sa construction. So, hindi man siya hambal nga paglong makonect dayon sa ano bisa sa lectures na siya mo sa which the first statement is sakto, then the next statement naman is sala. For example, sang sini, notice that the statement is true. However, we're also not sure which part of the sentence is deemed true by the student. So it is just fortunate that in this case, all parts of the sentence are true and hence the entire sentence is true. So kahit sa kalabaon niya, naging true na siya. So may another example. Pag the following example illustrate what can go wrong in the long sentence. So sa may go wrong man sa kung long sentence, hindi siya automatic siya true, then correct, and syempre may wrong na siya. Example, tests need to be valid, reliable, and useful since it takes very little amount of time, money, and effort to construct tests with this characteristic. Okay, that this part of the sentence is true, but the second part is debatable. Yes, guys, sakto. In fact, by be false, thus a true is correct, also false response is correct. So, bali diri, ga-double, ga-contradict ang duwa kung false pala or true. Kay, wherein, ang first nga statement or ang first sentence niya is correct, then the second sentence naman is hindi correct. So, amo na siya nga dapat, sa rule number 3, i-avoid mo ang ginatawag nga long sentences. It is because it is not valid na duwa ka answer ang magawa or ang ihatag sa isa ka question. Dapat only one answer lang na siya. Okay, rule number 4. Avoid trick statement with some minor misleading word or spelling anomaly, misplaced phrases, etc. A wise student who does not know the subject matter may detect his strategy, thus get the answer correctly. So, dapat guys, i-avoid tana ang mga amuna. So, sa example, the Raven was written by Edgar Allan Poe. Yes, Allen is misspelled, guys. And the answer will be false. Yes, false na siya, guys. Kaya hindi na siya si Edgar Allan Poe, kundi siya na si Edgar Allan Poe. This is example of tricky but alternately useless item. Useless lang siya, guys. So, kay ka-sample sentence mo, so, given example na siya nga, si Allen na siya dapat. So, makam up na siya sa tawag nga false, pero useless item siya. It is because wala kaya naghatag sang ginatawag nga question gid man, kundi naghatag ka lang ya sang given sang trick statement sang may ginlain ka lang nga word para maging false. So dapat rule number 4 sa paghimo sang true or false is i-avoid ni. Okay? Then rule number 5, avoid quoting verbatim from reference materials or textbooks. This practice sends the wrong signal to the students that it's necessary to memorize the textbooks word for word. Thus, acquisition of higher level thinking skills is not given so importance. Yes, guys, kay hindi man himbal na tanan na student is good sa vocabulary. So, ang gakasend na wrong signal sa students if nag-verbatim ka reference from the materials kag textbook. So, that is rule number 5. So, rule number 6. Okay, sa rule number 6 na tayo. Avoid specific determiners or give away qualifiers. Students quickly learn the strongly worded statement are more likely to be false than true. Or, for example, statements with never, no, all, or always. Moderately worded statements are more likely to be true than false. Yes. Statements that are moderately worded use many, often, sometimes, generally, frequently, or some. Usually should be avoided. Usually suffer from the hyperacidity. The statement tends to be correct. The word usually leads to the answer. So if wordy na tatamaan siya ka wordy, mga amo na siya nga words ang kaano, then it is a hint sa mga student nga true dayon ang answer. So, dapat na siya i-avoid kay may useless lang ang ginatawag ng learnings. So, rule number 7. With true or false questions, avoid a grossly disproportionate number of either true or false statement or even patterns in the occurrence of true or false statements. Yes, kung maghatag ka isang true or false, hindi mo pag-isiling if number 1, ang imo nga answer is true, then the sunod na is puro na false. Kay if the students know the answer nga na pattern mo na sang amo na, syempre it is easy to them to can up nga amo na ang answer. So useless lang ang imo nga test sa ila. No progress, wala ka sa makita nga progress. So For ease of correction, teachers sometimes create a pattern of true or false answer. Students will send it. Sakto, diba? Ang balkogina, mas-sense ng estudyante, mabalaan sa estudyante, and may arrive at correct answer. Not because he or she really knows the answer, but because he or she senses the pattern na. Amo na siya. Na-sense lang nila ang pattern niya ginatawag. So, amo to siya guys, ang 7 ka rules sa paghimo sang true or false. Okay, now let's proceed to the multiple choice test. A multiple choice test. It is a generalization of the true or false test. The multiple choice type of test offers the student with more than 2 options per items to choose from. Each item is multiple choice test consists of 2 parts. The STEM, yes, ang question, and the option. Yes, ang options, ang ginapilian. And the set of options, there are a correct or best option, while the other are considered distractors. The distractors are chosen in such a way that they are attractive to those who do not know the answer or are guessing, but at the same time have no appeal to those who actually know the answer. And in this feature of multiple choice type test that allow the teacher to test higher order thinking skills even if the options are clearly stated as it is true or false items, there are certain rules of thumb to be followed in constructing multiple choice test. So, kung sa true or false, may mga rules. So, diriya, may mga, may mga guidelines nga dapat i-follow. So, multiple choice test. So, guys, ang sa multiple choice test ya, kay may duwan siya kabahagi mo to siya no ang options kag ang STEM, ang question kag ang mga answers. So, kag may distractors na siya nga gimutang kung sa diin ang ini nga distractors kay ginabutang na da siya para i-attract ang mga kapina ang mga estudyante na gapakot-pakot lang sa ilang nga i-answer compare sa mga nakabalo ya. Syempre pag nakabalo ka sa answer wala ka guys, so mabalaan nimo nga amo na siya ang sakto nga answer kag amo na siya ang distractors lang. So at this part guys, ang teacher yaga aims ang higher order thinking skills. Unlike sa true or false na medyo easy lang, kapin na kung wala sang subordinate nga mga reasons. So, makakamap lang talaga sang answer, no? Okay. So, kadto na ta sa multiple choice test guidelines. Una, do not use unfamiliar words, terms, and phrases. The ability of the item to discriminate or its level of difficulty should stem from the subject matter rather than from the wording of the question. So, sa diriya nga party, avoid mo gid ang paggamit sa mga unfamiliar word. Kaya syempre, not all student is maro sa vocabulary. Kaya dapat, mas gatuon niyo siya kabuuan sang subject na tuunan nyo sang learnings, not for the wordy part, yeah. So, number 2, do not use modifiers that are faggy for and whose meaning can differ from one person. Modifiers that are fag and whose meaning can differ from one person to the next, such as much, often, usually, and etc. So, hindi ka dapat magamit diri sa mga modifiers. Example, much of the process photosynthesis takes place in the bark, in the leaf, or in the stem. So, tungod sa gigamit nga the qualifier, much, fag could have been replaced by more specific qualifiers like 90% of photosynthesis process or similar phrases that will be more precise. So, mas dasig babalaan kay may ginbutang nga much nga mga modifier. So, dasig makakam-up sang yang ka-answer. And then, guidelines number 3, avoid complex or awkward word arrangements. Also avoid use of negatives in the STEM as they may add unnecessary comprehension difficulties. Example B, ang President of the Republic of the Philippines, Corazon Cuangco Aquino, would stand next to which President of the Republic subsequent of the 1986 EDSA Revolution. So, dapat i-avoid ang awkward arrangements which is ginpatamaan mo ya. Ginhimo iya sang flowery word ang imo nga question. Nya pwede mo lang siya tani, mabutang sa simply na statement which is for example, who was the President of the Philippines after Corazon C. Aquino, which is makakama pa lang man sila sang same thought. So, dapat i-avoid ang kapag complicity sa pagbuo sang isa ka sentences sa question. Kay para hindi mag-cruel ang paminsaron sang estudyante sa pagpangita sang answer. So, dapat be simpler. Okay, number 4. Do not use negatives or double negatives, as such statements tend to be confusing. It is best to use simpler sentences rather than sentences that would require expertise in grammatical construction. Pareha sa ginhambal ko sa number 3, no? Number 3. Hindi mo siya pwede nga ma-double words nga double negative words. Kaya ang question is gakaguba or gakahatag na confusion sa mga students. Mas better nga maghimot questions in a simpler way na lang, no? For example, which of the following is not just implementation of Philippine economy? So, daw bali ka recruit. So, much may better sa iya, which of the following will cause inflation in the Philippines economy. So, diba, mas nag-simplier siya, mas nag-sample siya, which is ginumit ang not. Which is, kung basahon mis lang duwa, is same thought lang man gihapon. So, be simply in making a multiple choice question. Okay. Then next, what does the statement development patterns acquired during the formative years are not unchangeable imply? Man siyang hindi mayo, then ang mayo, what does the statement development patterns acquired during the formative years are changeable imply? So, ginumit ang not kag ang an. Bali, ginbutan na siya sa changeable nga word, which is pareha lang man Japon sang thought. So, let's proceed to guidelines number 5. Each item stem should be as short as possible. Otherwise, you risk testing more for reading and comprehension skill. So, sa diri guys, na sa rule number 5, dapat i-avoid ang quoting sang mga sang paghatag sang mga taas-taas nga mga question. So, dapat be short. Dapat short lang. Be short. Kaya hindi man hambal nga lawig-lawig o pagtaas-taas sa mga dapat be precise. Okay. Guidelines number 6. Distractors should be equal, plausible, and attractive. So, kung magbutang ka naman niya sang distractors, for of course, to give challenge to the student, dapat attractive. Or pwede man matend ang estudyante na, di sa ila. Where's the true answer? For example, the short story May Days Eve, written by which Filipino author? Jose Garcia, Vela, Robert Frost, Nick Joaquin, Arjan Allan Poe, Geneva Adres Matoti, which is ang initanan niya mga names is mga writers ni sila nga Filipino author. Okay, diba ka-distract? If distractors had all been Filipino authors, the value of the item would be greatly increased. Yes. In this particular instance, only the first 3 carry the burden of the entire item, since the last 2 can be essentially disregarded by the student, which is si Edgar Allan Poe kag Geneva Adresa Matati. Okay. Next is ang number 7 nga guidelines. All multiple choice options should be grammatically consistent with the stem. Yes, dapat consistent ang paghimo sa sentence. Kung tanan noun gid siya. Kung dapat naka all proportions ang mga phrases, dapat naka-inform na siya sa tanan. So, dapat daw grammatically correct siya. Na siya. Example, as compared to the authors of the 1960s authors in the 1980s. So, naman siya example, traveling slower, bigger interiors, to use fuel, contain more. So, they are familiar with each other. So, na siya ang sa 7, ang guideline number 7. So, guideline number 8, the length, explicitness, or degree of technicality of alternatives should not be the determinants of the correctness of the answers. The following is example of these rules. If the 3 angles of 2 triangles are congruent, then triangles are congruent on every one side if the triangles are congruent. Similar incongruent, and therefore must always be congruential if they are irregular. So, dapat na siya. The correct choice is letter B. May be of use for its length. and expectedness along the other choices are long and tend to explain why must be correct. Choices forcing the students think that they are, in fact, not incorrect answer. Yes, dapat ang length, explicitness, kag ang decrease ng alternative should not be determinants of worthiness of the answer. Hindi na siya ang basihan ang length ang nadakuon sa correct nga answer. Kay bisan taas pa na siya, laba pa na siya, it tends to be wrong pamingyapon. Okay, number 9. Number 9 question. Avoid stems that reveal the answer to another stem. To another item, I mean. Example, who will most strongly disagree with the progressive who claims that the child should be taught only that with which interests him, and he, if not interested, wait till the child gets interested. So, dapat i-avoid ang questions nga maka-tense ang hatag sa other answers sa another item. Di na siya pwede. Parehas ang mga, for example, ang which group will most strongly focus in teaching interests of the child? Which is ang answer sini is makuha mo lang man sa first nga, sa naunan niya nga question. So, dapat na siya i-avoid. Kung maghatag kaya dapat sang question, kag mga sang question hindi related sang first nga question nga sa baba or sa idalam or sa bottom, dapat hindi sila maka-come up or maka-overcome sang answer sa next item. So, dapat iba-iba talaga. So, guidelines number 10. Avoid alternatives that are synonymously with others or those that include or overlap others. Example, what causes ice to transform from solid state, liquid state? So, dapat guys, i-avoid ang paggamit sa mga synonyms kay bawal ang maghatag sang two answers sa one items, no, sa one question. So, dapat maka-come up lang gid sang one answers. For example, change in temperature, change in pressure, chemical composition, change in the heat and level. So, change in temperature and change in the heat level is magkapareho-pareho lang. So, which is wrong, which is dapat niya i-avoid. So, future educator B, patinan nyo gid na. The option A and D are essentially the same, yes. Thus, a student who spot these identical choices would right away narrow down the field of choices to A, B, and C. The last distractor would play no significant role in increasing the value of the item. If this happens, then the item has two answers, which is not acceptable. Right? Amo to siyang ginhamol ko gina. Then, number 11. Avoid presenting sequence items in the same order as the next text. Yes, bawal ang sequence ng ginatawag sa paghatag sa mga options. Na number 12, avoid use of assumed qualifiers that may examiners may not be aware of. Na dapat i-avoid ang mga questions nga hindi aware ang mga examinees. Of course, they cannot go or they cannot relate to the questions that you are given. Then, number 13, avoid use of unnecessary words or phrases which are not relevant to the problem at hand unless discriminating ability and primary intent of evaluation. The item's value is particularly damaged of the unnecessary material is designed to distract or mislead such items. Test that student reading comprehension rather knowledge of subjective matter. The side opposite 30 degree angle in the right triangle is equal to half length of the hypotenuse of sine of a 30 degree. It is 0.5. Its hypotenuse is 5. What is the length of the side opposite the 3 angle? 2.5, 3.5, 5.5, 1.5. So, dapat i-avoid ang mga unnecessary words or phrases. For example, sa itong hypotenuse. Kaya nga, it can lead confusion sa students kung ano ang buot silingon sa sina nga questions. So, gahatag sang sakit sa ulo sa estudyante para maka-come up or makakuha sang right answer or maka-answer. Kaya dapat i-avoid na siya. The sign of the 30-degree angle is really quite unnecessary since the first sentence already gives the method of finding the length of the side opposite the 30-degree angle. This is in case of teacher who wants to make sure that no students in her class gets the wrong answer. Okay, number 14. Avoid use of non-relevant sources of difficulty such as requiring a complex calculation when only knowledge of principle is being tested. So, it's being tested, no? So, dapat, ang sa diri is likawan ang paggamit sa mga hindi man related para sa need niya komplikado nga pagsuma kung ang ginapangayo lang man ang prinsipyo sa mga sang test or ang principle sang test. Kaya nga ka-useless lang nasa mo. So, note in the previous example, in the knowledge of sine of 30-degree angle would have led some students to use the sine formula for calculation, even if a simpler approach would have justified. Even simple lang ito pamangkot, basi makakamot pang estudyante to calculate it. No? So, hindi dapat. So, number 15, pack the question in the stem. Here is example question which has no question. Avoid it by all means. So, kung gahatag ang question, i-avoid mo siya kay wala man siya question. For example, ang the Roman Empire. Anong the Roman Empire? So, ang imo ginapangaya, ang sugpon lang niya. So, hindi na siya question. It is not a question. So, dapat na siya nga i-avoid. So, guidelines number 16. Use the none of the above option. Only will the K answer is totally correct. When choice of the best response is intended, none of the above is not appropriate since the implication has already been made that the correct response may be partially inaccurate. So, dapat ang none of the above is i-avoid man na siya. Then, number 17, note that the use of all of the above may allow credit of partial knowledge. In a multiple option item, allowing only one option choice. If a student only knew that two options were correct, he could then deduce the correctness of all of the above. This assume you are allowed only one correct choices. So, dapat note the use of all the above. Dapat kabalo ka kung anong purpose sa all of the above. Kung gabutan ka all of the above, syempre, dapat na ang first option, second option, third option, and fourth option nga which is all of the above is tsakto ang tatlo to nga ginahatag. So, dapat amo na siya. And then, guidelines number 18. Better still use none of the above and all of the above strongly, but best not to use them at all. Yes, much better na hindi na sila pag gamiton. Ang all of the above, kaya nga, kung nakakam up ang all of the above, it is nga, amo na siya, automatically ang answer. Then, sometimes, at is a prank na lang, may all of the above, but it is not the correct answer. So, it's better na lang nga hindi siya pag gamiton. So, number 19, having compound response. Choices may purposefully increase difficulty of an item. Okay, the difficulty of a multiple choice item may be controlled by varying the homogeneity of or degree of similarity of responses. The more homogeneous, the more difficult the item because they all look like the correct answer. So, dapat ang having some compound responses which is daw pare-pareho lang is i-minimize. For example, sa less homogeneous Thailand is located in Southeast Asia, Eastern Europe, Southeast America. Because of course, we all know that it is located in the Southeast Asia and then more homogeneous. Less homogeneous siya. Then, ang more homogeneous naman, Thailand is located next to. So, mga amo na siyang something question is dapat man nga ay sunton or be controlled na lang. Okay. And then, the next topic is all about matching type. What is matching type? I know that we are all, kita tanan is familiar sa matching type na ginatawag. Kag ang tanan-tanan naman nga test diri, nga gina-test construct is familiar naman talaga sa aton nga tanan, no? So, matching type. Matching type items may be considered modified multiple choice type items where the choice is progressively reduced as one successfully matches the items on the left with the items on the right. Yes. Kung sa left, ara da ang question. And then sa right is ara da ang mga options, mga pagapilian. And then may guidelines din ang matching type. Ang guidelines ang constructing a matching type of test. Una, here are some guidelines of observing the formation of good matching types of test. Ang mga maayo nga guidelines. So, una is match homogeneous, not heterogeneous items. So, dapat homogeneous. The items that match be homogeneous. If you want your student to match authors with their literary works, in one column will be authors, and the second column must be literary works. Don't insert nationality or instant with names of authors. That will not be a good item since it's obviously wrong. So, dapat, if tanan names is author na siya dira nga column, tanan is for author nga name. Inuya sa includan sang lain-lain or sa iban. Kung literary works na diya, iyan naka-literary works na nila, okay? Hindi na siya pwede nga insertan mo sang lain, ka automatically it is obviously wrong na. So example, yes, homogeneous items. The items are all about Filipino heroes, nothing more. So dapat yung Filipino heroes lang na siya. Match the items in column A with the items in column B. Perfect matching type. Example, match items in a column A with the items in column B. For example, sa number 1, first president of the republic, national hero, discovered the Philippines, brain of the Katipunan, defended Limasawa Island. So we all know the first president of the republic is si Aguinaldo. Then the national hero, si Rizal, discovered the Philippines, Magellan, and so on. And then the good construction, number 2 is the stem. Longer is construction the option. So, ang stem, longer is construction the option, must be in second column, while option, usually shorter, must be in the second column. So, kung ang stem is longer construction to the option, dapat ara siya sa second column. Kung ang option naman is shorter, kung ang option naman is mas gamay sa stem, or sa question niya ginatawag, dapat ara sa second column. And then, number 3, the option must be more in number than items to prevent the student from arriving at the answer by merely process of elimination. So, dapat ang options, ang ginapilian or ang ilang inog answer is mas damo kaysa sang questions nga ginahatag, kaysa sang stems nga ginahatag. Kaya para at least ang estudyante hindi maka-arrive sa mga elimination nga ginatawag sa pagpili nga diin daang way labot, diin daang may labot. So, amo na dapat mas damo gid ang number sang stems. Sang option I mean kaysa sang stems. So, number 4, to help the examinee find the answer easier, arrange the option alphabetically or chronological order. So, hindi ka na pwede nga mahambal palagpat ka lang from Z, X, to O, back to Z, back to C. So, dapat, para mabuligan mo man ang estudyante nga hindi magkaralibat, kag hindi magkarasakit ila mata sa pagpangita. So, i-arrange mo na daan alphabetically, chronologically. So, dapat naka-arrange na to at least help them. Bisan sa dira na lang apart. Okay, number 5. Like any other test, the direction of the test must be given. Examinees must know exactly what to do. So, syempre, dapat may instruction. Every test, may instruction din man sa. So, because we all know, instruction is part of the test. So that, ang estudyante hindi man mabalaan man nila kung ano ang exactly nga dapat himuon. So, amo na siya ang about sa matching type. Okay, the next topic guys will be discussed to us by Miss Kan ha. So, dire lang ako kutob sa ako niya topic. So, that is all guys. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you.